Okay, so if you're gearing up to open a new California cannabis dispensary in 2026, you actually have this massive advantage over the first wave of operators. Seriously, you get to learn from their incredibly expensive mistakes. Today, we're diving into real, boots-on-the-ground, commercial security guidance straight from the folks who install these systems all across Northern California. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how to secure your storefront from day one, and honestly, more importantly, how to dodge a totally devastating financial pitfall that we call the retrofit trap.
To really get this trap, we kind of need to look at the history. Think back to those early dispensaries. A huge chunk of them started out in repurposed buildings. Old liquor stores, auto parts shops, heck, even former churches, believe it or not. And look, the owners did everything right. They jumped through the hoops, got their permits, opened their doors, and then, bam, reality hit. Within 12 to 18 months, they realized that the basic security setup that originally got them open, it just wasn't enough to handle real-world day-to-day operations. They literally had to call the installers right back.
Which brings us right to the central, honestly, agonizing dilemma of this explainer. Why on earth are so many profitable, fully operational dispensaries actively choosing to bring in power saws to hack open their own beautifully finished drywall in year 2 of their business? I mean, it sounds completely unhinged, right? But it's happening all over the place, simply because doing a security retrofit after your store is up and running is an absolute business-disrupting nightmare.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap to keep you far, far away from that nightmare. We're going to cover 1. The cost of waiting, 2. Decoding your use permit, 3. Why you must build before the drywall, 4. Choosing the right armor, and 5. Insurance and scaling up.
Section 1. The cost of waiting. The nightmare of the retrofit. 4 to 8 weeks. Let that sink in. That is the timeline you're up against. Look, if you build your security in from the very start, it's just bundled into your original construction permit. 0 extra timeline. But if you're forced to retrofit, you have to pull an entirely separate building permit just for the modification. And in busy California cities, that process takes a grueling 4 to 8 weeks just from submission to issuance. Sometimes it takes even longer if the planning department needs to weigh in. And guys, that is all before a single piece of hardware is even installed.
And those delays? That's really just the tip of the iceberg. You're looking at a significantly higher install cost across the board. You're looking at a temporary store closure that'll wipe out 1 to 3 whole days of revenue. Then there's the cost of literally demoing your drywall, plus the finish work to fix it all up again after the new mounting is in. Oh, and you've got that painfully slow permit resubmission we just talked about. But you know what the absolute craziest part of all this is? This completely avoidable disaster usually happens on, like, a completely normal Tuesday, just totally blindsiding your thriving business.
All right, moving on to Section 2. Decoding your use permit. Translating bureaucracy into blueprints.
Okay, long before your architect ever stamps those plans, you've got to realize that certain trigger words are hiding in plain sight inside your Conditional Use Permit, or CUP. Your CUP absolutely dictates the physical security you are legally required to install. And sure, every city has its own flavor, but when you spot words like barrier, fixed, secured, line of sight, reinforced, or after hours, you need to circle them immediately. I can't stress this enough. These are not gentle suggestions from the city. These are hard, non-negotiable physical specs. If you miss them, your bill just doesn't pass review. Period. Now, cities love to throw around vague bureaucratic phrases like requiring adequate security measures. So the crucial point here is defining what that actually means in the real world. In practice, this translates directly to the exact physical products and structural changes you need to satisfy a city inspector. Take San Jose, for example. They demand all product be behind a fixed barrier at closing time. Other cities might strictly mandate reinforced rear access. If you get this wrong, the penalty isn't just paying for an expensive retrofit. It's the city forcing you to lock your doors and halt business entirely until it's fixed. No one wants that.
Section 3. Build before the drywall. Timing is everything. So security shutters are incredibly heavy. The structural header supporting the shutter housing, it has to be able to handle massive weight, constant operating cycles, and serious forced entry resistance. Plus, if you go with motorized shutters, they need dedicated power and control wiring pathways. Because of this, the absolute best time to bring your security installer into the room with your architect is right here, at the beginning, the schematic design phase. We're talking before bids even go out. If you spec your headers and conduits early during the framing phase, your general contractor just builds them right in for a fraction of the cost. But if you wait until the drywall is up, or worse, when the store's already operating, well, you're going to have to bring out those power saws. Let's do a quick, super honest industry reality check on how the paperwork actually flows during the build phase. Your installers will provide the documentation, but your general contractor, or you, the business owner, pulls the actual permit. Good security installers are absolutely going to hand over the drawings, the product cut sheets, and all those structural details for the city plan reviewer. But that permit goes in your name. If an installer ever pitches you and says they'll handle the permit for you as some kind of value add, beware. That is almost universally a massive red flag that they don't understand the permit process well enough to realize they shouldn't even be the ones pulling it.
Which brings us to Section 4. Choosing the right armor. Interior, exterior, day and night. A really quick tip before we get into choosing the actual hardware. If you are renting your space, landlords generally treat these upgrades as tenant improvements. That means you, the operator, are the one footing the bill for this structural prep. So your very first big hardware decision is exterior versus interior shutters. These require completely different framing setups, meaning you can't just easily swap them out later on. Now, exterior is the default for most dispensaries. It gives you way better forced entry resistance, a really strong visual deterrent right from the street, and it's frankly easier to service. But if you're stuck in a historic district, or maybe you have an ornamental stone facade you aren't allowed to drill into, or your lease strictly forbids storefront modifications, then interior shutters are going to be your best friend. They're also perfect when cities demand specific shutters just for the display cases. Neither is a downgrade, they're really just different tools for different buildings.
But hey, what about when your doors are actually open for business? And this brilliantly illustrates a massive blind spot for a lot of operators. See, shutters only solve the after-hours problem. For daytime exposure, when you've got customers walking around high-end inventory, you absolutely need polycarbonate sheeting installed inside your display cases. If a smash-and-grab crew comes in and takes a literal hammer to a case, that polycarbonate won't break, and your product stays exactly where it belongs. These two systems are totally complementary, not redundant. You want shutters for the night and polycarbonate for the day. Any serious security plan utilizes both.
All right, final stretch, Section 5. Insurance and scaling up, protecting your bottom line in future.
Let's zoom out for a second, past the physical metal and glass, and really focus on how this protects your long-term bottom line. As you probably know, the California cannabis insurance market is, well, it's complicated and it's expensive. And the physical security you build directly influences the premium you get quoted. So here is the golden rule. Spec your security to your insurance broker's checklist, not just the city's bare minimum requirements. The city's rules are just the floor. If you step it up and add rated shutters on street-facing openings and monitored alarms just to satisfy your broker, you're going to get meaningfully better terms. The cost of building this stuff in is a one-time fee, right? But the cost of operating without it is going to bleed you dry through higher monthly premiums forever. Plus, a truly robust setup ensures you actually stay insurable after a break-in attempt. And if your ultimate vision is to scale up, this right here is your playbook. Step 1, you'll lock down your absolute perfect security spec at store number 1. Step 2, you use that exact same product family, the same control system, and the exact same install crew. Step 3, you literally just copy and paste that blueprint for every subsequent location you open. When you do it this way, your maintenance costs drop, your staff training stays completely consistent, your insurance broker loves you, and the city reviewers start seeing your brand as a known, trusted quantity. The most successful operators out there treat security as a consistent brand spec, not as some brand new headache they have to solve at every single location.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take a hard look at your schematic designs, think about your project timeline, and ask yourself this one absolutely critical question. Are you building security into your foundation today, or are you just unconsciously scheduling a costly, business-disrupting retrofit for tomorrow? Get that installer in the room with your architect early on, read your CUP like it's the most important document in the world, and secure your business right from day one. Thanks so much for joining me.